Welcome back. She appeared in films like Bombay Boys and two Deepa Mehta productions, Bollywood Hollywood and Water. These days, actress Rishma Malik is busy recording her first music album. Her song, The Meeting Rivers, was featured on a prominent world music album, and the accompanying music video had its world premiere at Canada's North by Northeast Music Festival. We'll be playing that later in the show, but first, here now joining us in studio is Rishma Malik. Rishma, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
I can't believe, out of all the people that I've sat down with and interviewed that have been prominent in this scene, I've yet to sit down and have a conversation with you in studio.
I know.
Let's start 1 decade ago. Let's go 1996, wearing the crown of Miss India Canada. How did your career get kickstarted by that pageant?
Well, it's the launch pad that took me to India, and I think the rest was just, I was in the right place at the right time. I had fierce confidence, ambition. I had ideas in my mind that are different from the ideas that I have now in my mind, but I was rearing to go. You know, I was like, nothing could stop me, basically, and of course that was where I started my career as a television VJ.
Now, okay, so you're wearing the crown, you're representing Canada, you're South Asian, East Indian, and you're going to... What were some of the trials and tribulations going to India originally? Did you feel like a fish out of water, or did you feel like it was just instant stardom for you?
Complete fish out of water, you know, not being able to speak Hindi initially, and even now it's not quite good. But it was challenging. I was able to manifest or turn that around and make it my trump card, of course, because Channel V and MTV at that time were looking for a real Western component on their music channels. However, the fish out of water part was also just in terms of, like, you know, I mean, I would shake hands with people when I'd meet them, and that was not apropos, you know. I mean, you were meant to namaste, and of course now I would namaste, but but I'd also shake hands. And now, in fact, probably people there are more cultured with Hollywood film and whatnot, and a girl. I mean, since the advent of Charlie's Angels, I mean, that hadn't come out yet, even you know, by that point. So I was kind of an enigma, I guess you could say. It was a bit of my selling point.
And then you stayed there for how long? You did movies there as well, right? We mentioned Bombay Boys. So how long were you there? And tell us about some of the other projects you're involved in. Sure.
I was there for 3 years. I worked with Kaiser Gustad and Naveen Andrews and whatnot, who's now on Lost, which is great. And I was in Hong Kong for a year shooting the news, entertainment news, and not unlike yourself, interviewing Bollywood stars, Asha Bhosle, God, having a bit of a blank now, but that happens when you're on TV, doesn't it? When you're on the other chair.
Yeah, of course.
It doesn't happen.
No, but it's great because your career actually, it was launched from that pageant, but you're able to do so much more than just sort of be a pretty face on as a VJ. You were able to travel with it, and then you found your way back home.
Yes.
What was that experience like to come back to Toronto after so many years and sort of living in that spotlight?
It was very impactful. I initially, when I decided to leave India, I was at the top of my game. I had just graced the cover of Femina magazine, which I'm sure your viewers know is a major magazine to be a part of. And I decided to come home because I missed my parents, and that was kind of unlike me. Even though good Indian girls do miss their parents, I was feeling like Toronto was the place to come to, not just because of the family, okay, blah blah blah. It was also the fact that I felt I had already done what I needed to do in India.
Interesting.
I wanted to see myself be able to, I wanted to be cast in a Hollywood film. I wanted to be cast in Western. I wanted to speak English and be a part of a crew and a cast that it didn't have to do with me being South Asian. You know, that colorblind kind of casting thing that hadn't even started here necessarily at the time, but I was already ahead of myself. Decided to come back to the West.
And you've come back to the West, and we're going to get into the yoga stuff, etc., in a bit. But let's talk about what you've done here recently. Now, you had a chance to work with Deepa while being in Toronto for Bollywood Hollywood, and you've worked with her twice now, and you've also done several television appearances. So tell us about your experience in returning to Toronto and the productions you've been involved in.
Well, like, what would you like to hear? Would you like to hear about Deepa Mehta? Would you like to hear about some of the productions?
Well, that's a great part about your career, is that you've done so many great things. And it's interesting because yours is the type of career that younger people would be interested in knowing about. So let's talk about Deepa first.
Okay.
Bollywood Hollywood was a role you played at, what, Jazz's love interest?
That was a nice intro. Jazz's love interest.
That's all
I was Twinkie. I was named after a nice chocolate treat. And it was a fun role, and we got along great. The whole cast was in an amazing state. I mean, it was very different from shooting Water, which was very much, you know, as we've all seen, a serious movie. There was an intensity to the shoot because we were not allowed to tell anybody where we were. I mean, my parents knew where I was, but no one else. I actually signed a confidentiality agreement, and you know, you kind of felt that there was a real sense of like quiet and concern on the set, but yet it was a really loving group, and we all knew we were there for a really important reason.
And a lot of people have spoken about that. Even in shooting Water, Divyana writes about sort of that experience, etc. And you were telling me off camera that experience really did change your life.
It totally changed my life. I mean, you know, ultimately, I have friends that have watched the movie and been touched by the movie, and then at the end of it they've said, but Rishma, I didn't really see you much, you know, like, and my reaction to that is, wow, you may not have seen me much, but did I ever learn how to be an actor on that set? I mean, I was a widow, I had to shave my head, I had to be invisible, like I was literally, you know, it taught me, Mohit, something that none of the projects I've been on so far have ever taught me, which is it has nothing to do with the outcome, the result. It's not about how you look. It's not about how many people will see you in the project. It is about the actual role. It is about the experience. It's about communicating the art. And I'll be honest, I mean, you win Miss India Canada and you go off to India and you know, yes, I worked hard and I had to fight a lot of inner demons and battles, but I was arrogant, you know, of course, just like so many of us, you know. This business breeds it. And that experience that Deepa put me through, I still remember the phone call when she called me and said, it's a small role, Rishma, but it's important.
No, it's interesting.
You know, you have to do this, she was saying.
And I have to get, before I do you a disservice, we could talk forever about your career so far, but we have to get into the yoga. So yoga is something that you found almost like a new form of religion for yourself.
Absolutely. I was in the middle of teacher training before Deepa had called, and so I was just about to finish becoming a teacher. And then I went to shoot the film, and on the set of Water, I was teaching yoga.
Oh, wow.
So that was like, and I realized, okay, if there are gods or God out there, like I want to teach yoga on every set I work on.
And
you know?
And you do now.
And now I do. And when I came back, I joined a studio. I now created a yoga program in a beautiful studio in Thornhill. And I've got kids that I teach at schools. Plus, think about this, the kids, they adore not only learning yoga and me. I'm an actress, right? So they're learning much more than yoga. They're learning how to be confident and how to let go and how to love themselves more.
And that's fantastic. And so we've got yoga, acting, and singing. Now we're not going to have a chance right now to get into the singing stuff because we're going to give people an example of what your music sounds like, etc. Because we're going to show the video.
Oh, okay.
But when does the album come out? Quickly, just tell us that.
That will be finished by, I would say, December 2007, so maybe March, maybe a year from now.
Okay,
yeah,
and RishmaMalik.com is where people can stay in touch with you.
Yeah.
And then you can come back and tell us about
That's
the
right.
music
and
process.
If anyone out there wants to learn yoga, give me a call and maybe I'll set something up and come over to your home and teach you.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for coming by. After the break, there's much more on Bollywood Blvd with Geethika, but here now is a look at the Meeting Rivers music video by Rishma Malik.